Move! Now! You're in my seat. The black woman held her boarding pass steady, voice firm. Karen Whitfield scrolled through her phone, dismissive. I'm not going anywhere. First class is for people who actually matter. Why don't you go find your real seat in the back? Each word dripped contempt. Inside Flight 447's premium cabin, Jayla Morgan stood unwavering in the aisle, her tailored suit pristine against the brewing storm. On her lapel, an antique military pin gleamed small, significant, unnoticed. I paid for seat 2A. Karen's voice cut like ice. Do I look like I care what you think you paid for? I know people. Important people. You're nobody. The cabin fell silent except for the soft clicks of phone cameras. Passengers were filming everything, live streaming the confrontation to thousands. Flight attendant Jessica approached, her expression already hostile. Ma'am, is this woman bothering you? She addressed Karen while glaring at Jayla. The entire cabin held its breath. This was bigger than a seat. This was about power, about who belonged and who decided, and the woman they were dismissing held a secret that would destroy them all. Want more touching stories that expose injustice and inspire change? These real-life stories show how ordinary people transform corporate discrimination into movements for equality. Subscribe for more Black stories that matter. The alarm pierced through darkness at 4:03 a.m. Jayla Morgan's hand found her phone before her eyes opened. Muscle memory from countless early mornings. The quarterly reports glowed on her bedside tablet numbers that would reshape an industry, though no one knew it yet. She dressed methodically. Charcoal suit, minimal jewelry, her grandmother's wings pin polished to military perfection. The Tuskegee Airman insignia caught lamplight as she fastened it to her lapel. Big day, Ms. Morgan? Her driver Marcus glanced in the rear view as they glided through empty streets. The biggest, she murmured, checking her boarding pass for the third time. First class, seat 2A, flight 447 to Chicago. The airline's VIP lounge hummed with pre-dawn energy. Jayla helped an elderly passenger with her bags, earning a grateful smile. My granddaughter's graduating, the woman beamed. First in our family. From the television, financial news droned about mysterious movements in airline stocks. Major acquisition announced today, the anchor teased. Jayla's phone buzzed, 12 missed calls from the board secretary. Not yet. She silenced it, focusing instead on the weight of the moment. 23 years since her grandmother faced similar indignities in these same terminals. Today, that would change. Tech entrepreneur Robert Sterling recognized her immediately from the business journals scattered across his table, the woman helping elderly passengers while reviewing dense financial documents on her phone. Something about her presence commanded attention without demanding it. He'd built 3 startups on reading people, and everything about her screamed power held in careful reserve. When boarding began, he watched her join the priority line, movements deliberate and unhurried. The chaos started subtly. Karen Whitfield, designer luggage in tow, pushed past the priority boarding queue. Excuse me, I'm in a hurry. The gate agent's protest died as Karen flashed a smile that had opened doors her whole life. My husband's a platinum member. That counts, right? She added a laugh that suggested rules were for others. Jayla observed silently, already cataloging behaviors. The flight attendant Jessica's eye roll when scanning Jayla's boarding pass wasn't subtle. Neither was her warm greeting to Karen moments later. Small acts, but Jayla had built an empire noticing what others dismissed. Inside the aircraft, Karen had already claimed 2A, spreading her belongings like conquered territory. I'm sorry. That's my seat, Jayla stated, professional but firm. Karen didn't even look up from her phone. I don't think so. I'm already settled. The words carried the casual cruelty of someone who'd never been truly challenged. But there was calculation, too. She'd done this before, knowing most people would rather switch than fight. Jessica appeared, assessing the situation with a glance that lingered too long on Jayla's skin. Is there a problem here? The question aimed at Jayla, not the actual problem. Yes, this passenger is in my assigned seat. Jayla presented her boarding pass. Jessica barely glanced at it. Perhaps we can find you something in economy? I'm sure you'd be more comfortable there. Captain Reynolds emerged from the cockpit, silver hair and weathered jaw projecting authority. His eyes swept the scene. Two women, one conflict, multiple phones already recording. His decision took less than 3 seconds. Ma'am, addressing Jayla without checking documents, I need you to comply with crew instructions. The die was cast. Power had chosen its side, as it always had. But power, Jayla knew, could change hands faster than a boarding pass. You're asking me to give up my paid seat without even checking the documentation? Jayla's voice carried perfectly to the recording phones. Captain Reynolds straightened, authority challenged. I'm the law at 30,000 feet. You'll move now or be removed. His hand moved to his radio, a gesture practiced and intimidating. Karen smirked from 2A, champagne already in hand. Some people just don't understand where they belong. The words landed exactly as intended. Jessica nodded approvingly, solidarity among those who'd never questioned their place in the world. Sarah Martinez fumbled for her phone while corralling 2 kids. This wasn't right. The black woman had shown her ticket, had been nothing but polite. Mommy, why is that lady being mean? Her 5-year-old's question cut through adult pretense. Sarah hit record, knowing instinctively this moment mattered. Sometimes people aren't fair, baby. That's why we document everything. Her live stream notification pinged 50 viewers already. The caption wrote itself, "Watch this discrimination happening live on Flight 447. 3 security officers entered first class, their presence transforming disagreement into something darker." Jayla stood slowly, dignity intact despite the situation. I'm walking out, but I want it on record that I'm being removed from my rightful seat without cause. She looked directly at the nearest camera. My name is Jayla Morgan. Remember that name? Karen laughed, but it sounded forced now, tinged with uncertainty. Don't you think you're being a bit dramatic? My husband knows people. This little stunt won't go anywhere. But the entrepreneur in 3B was already typing furiously. That name. He knew that name. The walk of shame, except Jayla refused the shame. Each step measured, head high, meeting every eye that dared to look. A businessman in 4C called out, "This is wrong!" Others joined. "She had a ticket! Check the damn seat assignment!" Captain Reynolds followed, jaw clenched. Anyone else wanting to join her is welcome to deplane. The threat silenced most, but phones kept recording. Jessica's voice carried over the mutiny. Please remain seated. We'll depart momentarily. As if nothing had happened. As if dignity could be stripped as easily as a seat assignment. David Park had seen corporate bullying, but this was different. This was institutional. His Twitter thread was already viral. Watching a black woman removed from first class for no reason. At Airline now, care to explain? The woman was calm, showed her boarding pass, and they called security. He tagged every major news outlet, knowing his verified checkmark carried weight. The retweets climbed -500, 1,000, 2,000. Something about the woman's final words nagged at him. Jayla Morgan. Why did that name sound like a ticking bomb? Airport security processed Jayla with embarrassed efficiency. She sat in their sterile office, checking her phone with the calm of someone playing a longer game. 37 messages from board members, 3 from SEC compliance, 1 from her grandmother's estate lawyer, sent months ago, that she'd saved for today. The acquisition is complete. You now own 62% of Airline now. The announcement is yours to make. She smiled, an expression the security cameras would later make famous. Karen Whitfield was sipping champagne in her grandmother's seat. How poetic. How perfect. The security chief entered, uncomfortable. Ms. Morgan, there seems to be some confusion about charges. You're free to go. Free. The word had never meant more. By the time Flight 447 reached cruising altitude, #flying while black had replaced #Monday motivation as Twitter's top trend. The security office released Jayla after 45 minutes of paperwork that amounted to nothing. No charges, ma'am. You're free to go. Her legal team waited in the terminal's VIP section, led by Sarah Harrison, former Supreme Court clerk turned corporate justice warrior. They played directly into our hands, Sarah murmured, tablet showing real-time social metrics. 3 million views and climbing. CNN just picked it up. Jayla's response was to forward one email. Initiate Phase 1. Miguel Rodriguez had worked Terminal C for 15 years, but he'd never seen anything like this. Reporters materialized like mushrooms after rain. His manager was screaming about containing the narrative, while protesters gathered outside. He recognized the woman from the video sitting calmly in the VIP lounge, surrounded by serious-looking people in serious-looking suits. The contrast to her earlier humiliation was stark. When she caught his eye, she nodded acknowledgement of a witness. He nodded back, then texted his wife. "That lady they kicked off the plane? I think she's about to burn this whole place down." The airline's emergency response team convened in a conference room that suddenly felt too small. CEO Drake Phillips sweated through his fourth shirt of the day. How did this happen? Who authorized security? Fingers pointed in circles. The PR director's phone hadn't stopped buzzing. "Sir, we've lost 12% stock value in 3 hours. The board is demanding answers." Drake's assistant burst in. "Sir, there's something about the woman." The name Jayla Morgan IT found something in the shareholder database. The room fell silent. The kind of silence that precedes avalanches. Meanwhile, Karen Whitfield was living her best life in stolen seat 2A. Her Instagram story showed champagne, caviar, and captions like, "First class, recognizes first class hashtag, blessed hashtag, living my best life." She'd posted similar content before, always the victim when called out, always vindicated by corporate cowardice. This felt like another win. The comments started supportive but turned quickly. Someone had done their homework. "Isn't this the same Karen who got banned from Delta for false discrimination claims?" Another. "My cousin worked that flight. Says you literally stole that woman's seat." Karen's follower count began its death spiral 30K, 28K, 25K. She didn't notice, too busy taking selfies with the unwitting Captain Reynolds, who had no idea he was posing with his professional grave. Janet Williams managed Airline social media accounts for a living, but Airline Now's feed was approaching nuclear meltdown. Every response generated 1,000 angry replies. The official statement, "We're investigating the incident," had become a meme within minutes. Her personal phone rang. A reporter friend. "Janet? Off the record. What's the internal temperature?" She glanced around the empty social media bunker. Everyone else had fled to emergency meetings. "Somewhere between Chernobyl and Pompeii. And Janet? That woman they removed? Word is she's not just any passenger." The friend's typing stopped. "What do you mean?" Janet whispered. "I mean, check who bought 50 million shares last month." The smoking gun's fuse was already lit. In IT, a junior developer named Amy Foster stumbled onto an email chain that would end careers. The subject line was innocuous. Premium Cabin Comfort Protocol. The content was dynamite. Captain Reynolds to crew. "Remember, we maintain certain standards in first class. Use your discretion to ensure all passengers feel comfortable." Jessica's reply, "Understood. The Detroit incident won't repeat." Attached. A spreadsheet tracking relocated passengers by race. Amy's screenshot finger moved faster than her fear of termination. The file spread through encrypted channels, a digital wildfire waiting for oxygen. The law offices of Harrison, Blake, and Associates occupied 3 floors of steel and glass, but Sarah Harrison conducted war from a conference room turned command center. "Ms. Morgan, they're requesting you make a statement." Jayla sat at the head of the table, reviewing documents with the focus of a surgeon. "Not yet. Let them dig their hole deeper." The legal team exchanged glances. Their client's calm was either inspiring or terrifying. Perhaps both. On 12 screens, the crisis multiplied. BBC London, Al Jazeera, NHK Tokyo. The story had transcended borders. A human rights violation in first class was universal language. Thomas Blake had prepped for Supreme Court cases, but this energy was different. Watching Jayla Morgan work was like seeing chess played in 3 dimensions. Every move calculated, every reaction anticipated. When someone mentioned the airline's stock price, she simply smiled. Short sellers are having a field day, someone noted. Are they? Jayla's question carried weight. Thomas pulled up the trading data and nearly choked. Someone had been buying, methodically, massively, through shell companies that traced back to... Holy shit, he breathed. The senior partners turned. She owns them. She literally owns them. Drake Phillips's emergency board meeting descended into chaos before it began. Half the board members appeared via video, afraid to be photographed entering headquarters. Gentlemen, ladies, we need solutions. His voice cracked on solutions. The general counsel cleared his throat. Drake, we have a bigger problem. The majority shareholder has called for an emergency meeting. Today, Drake's face drained. The Cayman Islands Trust? They never... Not them, the new majority shareholder. As of last month, the PowerPoint slide revealed what IT had discovered. Morgan Strategic Holdings, 62% ownership. The same Jayla Morgan currently trending worldwide. Board member Richard Hayes, 70 years old and suddenly feeling every day of it, summarized elegantly, "We're fucked." Captain Reynolds landed in Chicago to find his career in free fall. 17 messages from the union, 3 from corporate, 1 from his wife. "Jim, what did you do?" The crew dispersed quickly, but Jessica made the mistake of checking her Instagram. Her face, crystal clear in passenger videos, had become a meme. The face of discrimination. Her boyfriend had already texted, "We need to talk." But worse was coming. In her crew mailbox, printouts of her emails were taped to her locker. Someone in IT had chosen justice over job security. She ran for the parking garage, but cameras were already waiting. Amara Okafor had covered corporate scandals across 3 continents, but this story had legs. Real legs. She stood outside Airline Now headquarters as protesters gathered. "Not just any protest," she reported live. Airline unions, civil rights organizations, even competing airlines employees. This has become about more than one seat. Her cameraman zoomed on a sign. First-class racism equals economy-class ethics. But the real story walked past in designer heels. Jayla Morgan entering the building like she owned it. Which, Amara would soon report, she literally did. The smoking gun email chain leaked at 3:47 p.m. Eastern. Amy Foster, knowing her termination was assured, had chosen scorched earth. The premium cabin comfort protocol documents included training materials, crew communications, and a decade of incidents, names, dates, flight numbers, a prejudice pattern painted in spreadsheet cells. Twitter crashed twice. Reddit's legal advice subforum moderators gave up. The hashtag evolved. Hashtag systemic skies. But in the VIP conference room, Jayla Morgan read every word with the satisfaction of a prosecutor who just received a signed confession. "Sarah," she said quietly, "prepare the announcement." Carlos Mendoza represented 30,000 airline workers, and his phone was melting. "Is this real?" members demanded. The documents were real. The implications were staggering. He'd fought for workers' rights for 20 years, but this was different. This was institutional rot. His statement wrote itself. The union demands immediate investigation and accountability. No worker should be forced to implement discrimination. But privately, he knew this went deeper. The fish rotted from the head, and the head was about to roll. Celebrity boycotts materialized like dominoes. Athletes, actors, CEOs, people who lived in first-class cabins declared they'd never fly Airline Now again. The stock price entered terminal velocity, down 18%, 22, 25, trading halted twice. In her war room, Jayla watched the numbers with an expression her team couldn't read. "Ma'am, should we release a statement? The market..." She raised one hand. "The market is behaving exactly as expected. Prepare Phase 2. Her phone buzzed. A message from the board secretary. Emergency meeting in 1 hour. Virtual attendance available. She smiled. Tell them I'll attend in person. After all, I own the building. The final piece fell when Karen Whitfield's history surfaced. A digital vigilante leaked her trail, banned from 2 airlines, 3 discrimination lawsuits, all dismissed, and the Killing Blow family connections. That's Captain Reynolds' cousin, someone tweeted with receipts. The photo from Christmas 2019, Karen, Reynolds, and their families. No wonder he didn't check her ticket. The internet's fury found new focus. Karen's LinkedIn disappeared. Her Instagram went private. But screenshots live forever, and hers were spreading like digital wildfire. In seat 2A, flying back to Chicago, she finally noticed the comments. Her champagne went flat. The seatbelt sign was on, but turbulence had already found her. The email thread titled Premium Cabin Comfort Protocol read like a discrimination handbook disguised as customer service. Amy Foster had done more than leak. She'd provided context. Each message time-stamped, each decision traceable. Captain Reynolds, June 2019. Successfully maintained cabin standards on DTW to ORD route. Translation, kept Black passengers out of first class. Jessica Martin's performance review glowed. Exceptional at reading situations and preventing disruptions. Her bonus that year, $15,000. For what? The spreadsheet told that story, 87 relocations in 12 months, with demographic data that painted a damning picture. Robert Hayes had worked airline IT for 8 years, watching the protocol with growing disgust. Now, sitting in a law office with video deposition equipment, he finally spoke. It wasn't written policy, nothing that could be sued over, just understanding, winks and nods. Maintain comfort. Prevent issues. We all knew what it meant. His hands shook as he provided USB drives. More emails, more evidence. Ms. Morgan deserves to know what she's buying into. The lawyer leaned forward. Bob, she already knows. She's counting on people like you to help fix it. The acquisition documents emerged from SEC filings like puzzle pieces. Morgan's strategic holdings, registered in Delaware, funded through legitimate channels that traced back to Jayla Morgan's technology exits. She'd spent 2 years quietly accumulating shares, flying under disclosure thresholds until last month's final purchase. 62% ownership achieved in one massive block trade. The seller, an overseas fund looking to dump amid reputational concerns. They'd sold their problem. They just didn't know they'd sold it to its solution. Karen Whitfield's digital footprint became Evidence Exhibit A, the Twitter account at Karen Flies First. 2 years of complaints, always the same pattern. Take a seat, claim discrimination when asked to move, threaten lawsuits, extract compensation, but the details revealed calculation. She'd studied airline policies, knew exactly how far to push, which words triggered corporate fear. Delta's ban letter leaked, pattern of disruptive behavior and false claims. American Airlines' similar letter surfaced an hour later. But the coup de grace came from a flight attendant's Reddit post, anonymized but detailed. She's Reynolds' cousin. We were told to accommodate her needs whenever she flew. The family connection confirmed what everyone suspected, privilege protecting privilege. Maria Santos covered airlines for Goldman Sachs, but this story broke every model. Look at the trading pattern, she told her team. Someone knew. Someone planned this. The accumulation had been surgical, never enough to trigger alerts, always below reporting thresholds, until the final purchase. Whoever did this wanted to be discovered. Today, during this crisis, she pulled up Morgan Strategic's registration. The CEO's name made her gasp. She's not just any tech executive, she's Isabella Morgan's granddaughter, the first Black woman to attempt commercial pilot licensing in 1962. Denied on medical grounds that were never specified, the circle was closing. Drake Phillips's office became a confession booth as executives lined up to minimize damage. The HR director, I raised concerns about the protocol. I was told it was above my pay grade. The training supervisor, Captain Reynolds, designed the program, said it was about premium experience. Each confession another nail. Drake's own emails surfaced, not directing discrimination, but acknowledging its existence. Let's discuss offline appeared 17 times when protocol issues arose. Plausible deniability shattered against documented patterns. His resignation letter was drafted, waiting for the inevitable. Corporate security footage from the past 5 years told its own story. Analysts found 17 incidents matching the protocol pattern, always the same. Black or brown passenger, first-class seat, vague comfort concerns, relocation to economy. The videos showed confusion, resignation, sometimes tears. But Jayla Morgan's incident was different. She'd known. She'd prepared. Every word calculated to create this moment. The security chief, reviewing footage, noticed something others missed. She'd looked directly at every camera, memorizing positions. She knew exactly what she was doing. His deputy nodded. The question is, what's she doing next? The boardroom's mahogany table reflected 12 faces, ranging from pale to ashen. Drake Phillips fidgeted with his Mont Blanc, the pen his father gave him when he became CEO. That felt like centuries ago, not 5 years. Ladies and gentlemen, our majority shareholder. The double doors opened with theatrical precision. Jayla Morgan entered wearing the same suit from the flight, her grandmother's wings prominent. The power dynamic shifted before she spoke. Board members who'd commanded industries shrank in their chairs. The woman they'd allowed to be humiliated now owned their futures. Helen Crawford had recorded 1,000 board meetings, but nothing like this. The moment Jayla Morgan spoke, "Gentlemen, I'm your new majority owner." She watched 12 powerful faces crumble simultaneously. Richard Hayes actually gasped aloud. Drake Phillips's pen rolled off the table, clattering in the silence. Through the glass walls, employees gathered, sensing history. Helen's fingers flew across the stenotype, capturing what newspapers would call the 14 words that changed aviation. You thought I didn't belong in first class. Turns out I own the whole plane. I bought this airline to fix it. Jayla's voice carried calm authority. The presentation began without preamble. Email threads, spreadsheets, video compilations, 10 years of systemic discrimination displayed with prosecutorial precision. The Premium Cabin Comfort Protocol, creative name for institutional racism. Board members avoided eye contact with the evidence and each other. Richard Hayes, senior member, tried deflection. Ms. Morgan, these appear to be isolated incidents. She cut him off with a look. Isolated? I have 87 documented cases. Would you like me to name them? The live stream link appeared on screen. Or should we ask the public? Mark Thompson had covered hostile takeovers, but this was a moral reckoning. His Wall Street Journal livestream caught every micro-expression as Jayla Morgan systematically destroyed careers. This isn't just about my seat, she said, eyes sweeping the room. It's about every grandmother who was told she didn't belong, every child who learned to expect less, every professional who was relocated for someone's comfort. The chat exploded. 50,000 viewers, 75,000, 100,000. When she pulled up Jessica Martin's emails, the flight attendant's termination was assured. Exceptional at reading situations, Jayla quoted. Yes, she certainly read my skin color efficiently. The termination letters were prepared in advance. Captain James Reynolds, your employment is terminated effective immediately. She slid the paper across mahogany. Your final flight was your last flight. Reynolds's facade cracked. You can't, I have a contract. Section 12.3, Moral Turpitude Clause. Discrimination qualifies. She turned to the screen where Jessica Martin watched via mandatory video link. Ms. Martin, clear your locker. Security will escort you. The public watching via live stream erupted in chat. Justice served at 30,000 feet and sea level simultaneously. Drake Phillips. The CEO straightened, maintaining dignity's last shreds. Your resignation. Now. He'd prepared for this, sliding his letter across. But Jayla wasn't finished. Your golden parachute is void. Section 8.2, Reputational Damage Clause. $15 million evaporated with her words. Drake aged a decade in seconds. The board serves at my pleasure now. She turned to the remaining members. You have a choice. Comply with immediate reforms or join them. The live stream chat had become a celebration. Comments flooded. Queen, this is how you handle discrimination. From the back of the bus to owning the bus company. James Wilson had worked corporate security for 20 years, but escorting terminated executives felt different today. Captain Reynolds walked like a man leaving his identity behind. 40 years of flying ended by 40 minutes of prejudice. Jessica Martin was crying, her perfect makeup streaming. It's not fair, she kept repeating. James wanted to say, neither was what you did to others, but he stayed professional. In the lobby, reporters waited like hungry wolves. The questions came in waves. Captain, how do you respond to the emails? Jessica, any comment on your bonus for discrimination? They pushed through, but everyone knew their silence was confession enough. Phase 2 began immediately. New executive team, effective tomorrow. Jayla's slides showed faces that reflected America's actual demographics. Chief Operations Officer, Maria Gonzalez, risen from baggage handler to executive. Head of Customer Experience, Deshaun Williams, who'd started as a gate agent. People who understand service because they've served. The board's remaining members nodded frantically, self-preservation instinct engaged. Richard Hayes ventured, the market volatility will stabilize when we do the right thing. Integrity is profitable. She clicked to the final slide. Her grandmother in 1962, standing beside a plane she was never allowed to fly. Isabella Morgan was told she didn't belong in the cockpit. Today, her granddaughter owns the airline. That's America's promise, when we keep it. The press conference started at market close, strategic timing to control overnight narratives. Jayla stood at the podium bearing Airline Now's logo, a logo she now owned. Behind her, the new executive team formed a visual statement. Diversity wasn't policy, it was leadership. Today, we don't just apologize, we transform. Cameras flash like strobes. Every major outlet had sent their best. This wasn't just corporate news anymore. This was social history being written in real time. The premium cabin comfort protocol ends today, but ending discrimination requires more than words. Dr. Angela Washington had consulted for Fortune 500 companies on diversity, but Jayla Morgan's plan broke the mold. Every employee, from baggage handlers to board members, will undergo bias interruption training, not sensitivity seminars, actual behavioral change protocols. The journalist next to her whispered, "That's expensive." Angela did quick math. 50 million minimum. But Morgan wasn't done. AI monitored seat assignments to prevent human bias, body cameras for all customer-facing crew, and a passenger advocate on every flight, empowered to override discriminatory decisions. The room buzzed. This wasn't reform, it was revolution. The Passenger Rights Charter appeared on screen, 10 points that redefined airline accountability. First, no passenger shall be relocated based on any protected characteristic. Obvious, yet revolutionary for its explicit statement. Second, all disputes recorded and reviewed by independent panel. Third, whistleblower rewards for reporting discrimination up to $100,000. Board member Hayes, watching from his soon-to-be former office, calculated the cost. It would cut profits by millions. But Jayla anticipated this. Studies show inclusive companies outperform by 35%. We're not spending money. We're investing in integrity. Karen Whitfield's arrest made split screens with the press conference. FBI agents, acting on interstate fraud charges, led her from her suburban home as Jayla announced the Victim Compensation Fund. Every passenger unjustly relocated will receive damages, apology, and lifetime platinum status. Karen's calculated schemes had finally met consequences. Her pattern of false claims across state lines constituted wire fraud. Her cousin, Captain Reynolds, watched from his lawyer's office, his own federal charges pending. The protocol hadn't just been wrong, it had been criminal. Wire fraud, civil rights violations, conspiracy. The justice system, like altitude, offered perspective. Carlos Mendoza watched his members' faces transform from skepticism to hope. The new contracts Jayla announced weren't just fair, they were revolutionary. Profit sharing for all employees, stock options vesting after 1 year, and protection for reporting discrimination ironclad, with penalties for retaliation. A baggage handler raised his hand. What about those who participated? Jayla's answer defined her leadership. Truth and reconciliation. Admit past wrongs. Commit to change. Keep your job. Hide or lie, you're gone. The room erupted in applause, not for punishment, but for the possibility of redemption. Industry ripple effects began immediately. Delta announced bias training within hours. United convened emergency board meetings. American Airlines CEO called personally, "Ms. Morgan, could we discuss your protocols?" She'd forced an industry to mirror morality. The federal investigation expanded suddenly. Every airline's comfort protocols faced scrutiny. Senator Elizabeth Warren tweeted, "This is why we need diverse ownership." One woman did what regulations couldn't. The Department of Transportation announced comprehensive reviews. Change was climbing, reaching regulatory altitude. Michael Stevens had worked under Reynolds for 5 years, participating in the protocol out of misguided loyalty. Now, in the Truth and Reconciliation session, he faced his victims via video link. "Mr. Jackson, I relocated you from first class in 2018. I was wrong. I'm sorry." The elderly man on screen nodded slowly. "I missed my grandson's graduation because of that delay." Michael's voice broke. "I can't undo it, but I can ensure it never happens again." This scene repeated dozens of times: admissions, apologies, accountability. Jayla Morgan watched from the back, knowing healing required hearing. Justice wasn't just about punishment, it was about transformation. The stock market rendered its verdict at opening bell. Airline now up 12%. Ethical leadership, apparently, was profitable. The new executive team's first meeting was public, live-streamed for transparency. Maria Gonzalez, new COO, had started in baggage 20 years ago. "I know what it's like to be invisible in this industry. Never again." Deshaun Williams shared his gate agent days. "I watched the protocol happen. I was told to stay quiet. Today, we speak up." Each story built the foundation leadership that understood discrimination because they'd lived it. The company's new motto appeared on screens. Every passenger, every seat, every time. Simple words that required complex change. But change, like flight, began with believing it was possible. Employee town halls happened simultaneously across 30 airports. Jayla appeared via satellite, but her message was personal. You are not your past mistakes. You are your next right decision. She shared her grandmother's story, not for sympathy, but for context. Isabella Morgan was denied her dream. I achieved mine. But success isn't revenge, it's reform. Standing ovations erupted location by location. Workers who'd feared termination found transformation. The airline's new motto appeared on screens. Every passenger, every seat, every time. The new charter included a governance sanity check, every policy reviewed by ethics board with consumer advocates, SEC compliance verified, due process documented. Corporate law had met moral law and found them compatible. Patricia Williams found her boss alone in the CEO's office at midnight, holding a faded photograph. Isabella Morgan in 1962 standing beside a Cessna she was never allowed to fly. She kept applying for 20 years, Jayla whispered. 20 years of no. She died thinking things would never change. Patricia had worked for 3 CEOs, but none had cried in front of her. Ms. Morgan, she'd be so proud. Jayla traced her grandmother's face in the photo. I bought an airline with tech money, Patricia. She cleaned them to put me through school. The tears came then, not of sadness, but of generational triumph. We did it, Grandma. We're all flying first class now. The first reformed flight launched a week later, Flight 447, the same route where it all began. Media coverage was exhaustive, but the real story was inside. 8-year-old Marcus Thompson, upgraded to first class with his mother, a single parent flying to a job interview. Is this really our seat? His wonder was infectious. The new crew, trained in active inclusion, made him junior pilot with plastic wings. Everyone deserves to fly high, the captain announced, her voice carrying new conviction. She'd been hired 3 days ago, one of 15 female pilots fast-tracked to combat decades of discrimination. The passengers applauded, understanding they weren't just clapping for a child, but for change. Brad Collins had worked under the protocol, relocating passengers he knew belonged there. His truth and reconciliation session had been brutal, but necessary. Now, serving that same first-class cabin, he approached each passenger differently. "Welcome aboard, Miss Johnson. It's an honor to serve you." The elderly black woman looked suspicious years of conditioning. "You mean that?" He knelt to her eye level. "Ma'am, I didn't always. I was part of the problem. But yes, today and every day forward, I mean it." She studied his face, then smiled. "Growth looks good on you, young man." He served her champagne with hands that finally felt clean. Captain Reynolds's letter arrived on Jayla's desk, personally delivered. 3 pages, handwritten, no lawyers involved. "I was raised to believe certain things. I never questioned them. That was my failure." He detailed every incident, every relocated passenger he remembered. "I don't expect forgiveness. I expect consequences. But I wanted you to know, your grandmother deserved better. You deserved better. Every passenger I failed deserved better." Jayla read it twice. Accountability without excuses was rare. She had her assistant forward it to the Truth and Reconciliation Committee. Even the worst actors could choose redemption if they chose truth first. The employee transformation stories multiplied. A gate agent who'd enforced the protocol now led diversity workshops. A baggage handler promoted to supervisor implemented fairness protocols that became industry standard. The woman who'd leaked the emails, Amy Foster, was rehired with a promotion to ethics oversight. "You risked everything for truth," Jayla told her. "That's the leadership we need." Amy's first act was establishing an anonymous reporting system that actually worked. Tips flowed in, not just about discrimination, but about excellence. Employees reporting colleagues who went above and beyond for inclusion. The culture was shifting from fear to pride. David Kim had avoided Airline now for years after being relocated in 2019. His first flight back was emotional. The same route, Dallas to Detroit, but everything felt different. The crew's energy, the passenger mix in first class, even the air felt cleaner. When he mentioned his past experience to the flight attendant, she didn't minimize it. "Mr. Kim, I'm sorry that happened. Would you share your story with our passenger advocate?" He did, and found himself upgraded not just in seat, but in faith. Companies could change. People could grow. He posted about it, adding to thousands of similar stories flooding social media. New Airline Now was trending, but more importantly, it was true. The ripples extended beyond aviation. Business schools added case studies. Congress held hearings on corporate discrimination. Other industries examined their own comfort protocols. Jayla Morgan became a reluctant icon speaking at universities, advising other companies, always redirecting credit to the collective. "I had the money to buy change." But change happens when everyone buys in. The transformation statistics spoke volumes. Employee satisfaction up 340%. Customer diversity increased 200%. Profitability exceeded all projections. Doing right, it turned out, was good business. 1 year later, the aviation industry gathered for its annual awards. Jayla Morgan took the stage to accept the Transformation Leadership Award, but her speech focused elsewhere. This belongs to every passenger who was told they didn't belong. Every employee who chose courage over comfort. Every person who recorded injustice instead of ignoring it. Behind her, a video montage showed the journey from that first-class confrontation to industry-wide reform. The audience included former antagonists, now allies in change. Captain Reynolds, serving community service by teaching bias interruption to new pilots. Jessica Martin, working with nonprofits after her industry ban. Even Karen Whitfield, completing court-ordered sensitivity training, had sent a letter of genuine apology. The reformed Flight 447 had become a symbol. Monthly, it carried scholarship recipients to interviews, refugees to new homes, dreamers to their futures. All first class because class wasn't about money anymore, it was about humanity. The 8-year-old boy from that first reformed flight appeared on screen, now 9 and confident. I want to be a pilot. Captain Johnson says I can be anything. Captain Johnson, the female pilot hired during reforms, had become his mentor. Cycles of exclusion broken by intentional inclusion. Aisha Patel, tech entrepreneur, chose Airline now specifically because of its transformation. Settling into 2A that seat, she thought about Jayla Morgan's journey. From humiliation to ownership, from injustice to reform. Her boarding pass felt like more than permission to fly. It was a reminder that systems could change. She pulled out her phone, documenting not discrimination, but its opposite. Flying at Airline now, where every passenger truly belongs. This is what accountability looks like. Corporate justice. Her post joined millions of others, not viral anger anymore, but viral hope. The numbers told their own story. Employee satisfaction up 400%. Customer diversity increased across all cabins. Profit margins higher than pre-reform levels. Other airlines had adopted similar protocols, creating industry-wide change from one woman's strategic revenge. But Jayla Morgan's final message focused forward. Your boarding pass is your right. Your phone is your power. Your voice is your weapon against injustice. Document discrimination. Demand better. Whether it's an airline seat or a boardroom chair, if you don't belong there, maybe it's time to buy the whole company. Want more Black stories that inspire change? These touching stories prove that real-life stories of injustice can transform entire industries. Share your own story of standing up to discrimination. Every voice matters. Every seat counts. Every person deserves first-class treatment in the air and on the ground. Subscribe for more life stories that change lives.